All right, so here I am, still working to get the black type where I want. Keep it kind of angular, but a little bit hand done at the same time. And I'm using the pencil tool for this. I'm trying to keep it fairly angular without it being super, super sharp. Let's see. Let's place this A a little differently. Using the large selection tool. That's how you can adjust the kerning. And I think you learn a lot more about type design by hand typesetting like this than just using an existing typeface and its default kerning and leading. But this one's tricky, this A. So I'm going to do the trick I showed in the last video. I'm going to open up the drawer for the small selection tool and choose the lasso tool. And then I'm going to split it in half. Select one half of this A. And what I'm doing is I'm selecting just that half of the anchor points. And I take the small selection tool, and I click and I drag it, right? And I can thicken it. I can make it wider. Then I can go back to the large selection tool, and I can squeeze it and taper it a little bit. And then that's a little bit more like what I want. Remember, kerning is the space between letters. I can also make it lopsided. So I'm going to use that lasso tool again. I'm going to grab this side. Then I'm going to grab the small selection tool. Doesn't matter which anchor point, they'll all now move together. Oh, and actually what I want to do is change the angle here. So I don't want those bottom ones of the feet. I just want the top ones of this corner. So I lasso those. Then I grab them. And now I can change that angle a little bit. And I think I want to tilt it. Yeah, I'm liking this. Okay, so my favorite tool, the pencil tool, is going to be used to clean this up. Keep it angular. To be blocky and strong. There we go. Be nice if my tablet works with Illustrator again. Let's see, how does that look? Yeah, that reads fine. I might thin it in here just a little bit. So just like when I was showing digital coloring, I'm trying to show you all these different approaches and tools you can have. But really, you just need to find one you feel confident with, one approach to your type design. All right, and then the C, because it came from a modified typeface, even though it's overlapping with the E, it's got its own anchor points, so I can separate it again and play with its kerning. And what's tough about a C is I can't have the top overhang the bottom, or it will look like a G. But what I can do is use this trick of the lasso tool, and I can grab the inside edge of the top and bottom. Well, let's do the top of the C first. And then I modify this existing typeface by thickening that out, or maybe angling it like that. And then I'm going to grab these points. Whoops. Use the lasso. Grab these anchor points. Then use the small selection tool to play with those positions. I'm trying to find kind of the shape language I want. And then I'm going to grab the inside edge here, these anchor points. Use the small selection tool to move them. And I think what's going to finish it off is grabbing the corner here and moving that back. C's are some of the trickiest to get them not to read like G's. At least it's a problem I often have with type design. Yeah, so maybe like that. Okay, so now, pencil tool to bring it all together. Maybe let it be a little bit more open at the top. There we go. Okay, and now at any time I can use the large selection tool and I can just transform its size and its rotation. But I'm trying to do it so it doesn't overlap my spot illustration. But it can overlap the spot illustration. That's up to you. All right, last one, the E. I already had worked on it somewhat, but I want to place it. And I think I want to play against this strong horizontal, right? Make it feel a little bit more hand-placed. Even though the C drops quite a bit, I'll have the E kind of move up. So I'm going to redraw it here, and then angle it up slightly as it relates to the bottom. Just do a little swell. Maybe bow it out. Same thing here. Play with these shapes. I'm modifying the existing typeface. I'm not strictly adhering to it. Yeah. Let's just straighten the back a bit. It's the opposite. There we go. All right. So now I want to turn off my sketch and just see the letters and see that they're readable, that they all kind of take up a good amount of space. I see how I can take all three of these letter forms, right? And maybe stretch them down a little bit. Using the large and small selection tools. That should not impact their blocking. Okay, so now here's the trick. On my poster, I actually want to save each of these as an individual letter form. Type solution, so I can bring them over. The public looks really, really blocky, but very readable. The menace looks like it's getting pushed, like stepped on, which I kind of like. It gets a little bit more pillowy and jokey. I think that's all fine. I might thicken up the top of the M just before I finalize my black type. And to do that, I'm simply going to redraw the top, just the top, with the pencil tool, start on the path and end on the path. And I'm just going to round it out just a little bit at the corners. Maybe angle this a little bit more so it's not so vertical. So you decide how symmetrical you want to be. Okay. Oh, that's a little too thick on this corner. That's too skinny. So this is why I like this trick. Using the lasso tool under small selection, I can just take this corner of the M. I don't have to redraw it knowing what I want. I can just move it to kind of show me about the weight I want. Maybe about there. And then I use the pencil tool to smooth it or straighten it, make it a little bit stronger. And then, of course, I can use the large selection tool just to widen it if I want to do that. See how that reads from a distance. Yeah, it's pretty strong. And then the E, I think is good, except I don't want this little serif at the bottom anymore. That's a little too fussy. Okay, everything else, yeah, that's all reading pretty well. Maybe the top of the A doesn't need to have the little serifs, little bumps, at least on that side. Or make them more angular. Yeah, that helps. Okay, so what's next? Well, I hit Command S, I save it as my AI working file. Then I turn off the sketch behind so I just see what I want to see. And now I'm going to turn off Minus, and I'm going to save this as a transferable vector format for just public. Before I do that, I might just round the back of that C a little bit. I'm going to unlock it. Oh, I'm going to show you another trick too, just because I'm trying to show you everything. So I'm just going to round these just slightly. I can keep it. Okay. So this is my block black type, but I want it to be outlined type for my poster. So how can I do that? Well, I'm going to first take Minus, and I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to swap the stroke for the fill. And then I go to Properties, and I'm going to play with the stroke size. I can make it as big as I want, and then I can play with the stroke properties. And I want them to be rounded, and I want them to be on the inside of the line, not the outside of the line, right? Or maybe I want them on the outside of the line. Let's see what that looks like. So that's looking actually kind of like what I want, except that the stroke is getting so big it's invading the space, right? So let me select it again. Because what's nice is all of this can be modified under Properties. I'm going to take the stroke size down. And I can set it so the stroke is not on the outside, but it splits the difference between the inside and the outside. And then thicken it a little.